So, welcome to another empowering episode of Women Who Lead. And I want to wish all of you a happy Valentine's Day today. I've got Taylor Swift red lipstick on. And we're also celebrating the Chinese New Year, which is the year of the dragon, and Black History Month, all in one. And we're kicking off our February show by shining a spotlight on three remarkable leaders who are leading the charge in their organizations and building legacies that are inspiring many generations to come. I'm Teresa Palacio Smith, Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Home Services of America, and I'm honored to host this series where I have the opportunity to meet and connect you with some of the most talented women in leadership. And today, grab your cafecito and settle in as we get a chance to meet the legacy builders. And I'm really excited about today's show, starting with Anita Legacy Blue. And Anita, I love that you've got legacy in is that your maiden name?
That is a name I gave myself.
I love it. I love it. And Anita is a 35-year retired Air Force veteran. Again, wonderful. #1 best-selling author, realtor, and the 2024 president of the National Association for the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance, which is one of the most powerful voices in real estate that is dedicated to empowering the LGBTQ plus community on their journey to homeownership. Anita holds a business administration degree from Trident University, and I love your mission statement, be the leader you want to see. I love that. Welcome, Anita, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Same happy Valentine's Day to everyone, Black History Month. Teresa, thank you so much for this opportunity. And we're excited from the Alliance.
Wonderful. And Alicia Knapp is the president and CEO of BHE Renewables. BHE Renewables owns solar, wind, geothermal, natural gas, and hydro projects that produce energy. Alicia holds a bachelor's degree in economics and a master's in business administration from the University of Iowa, and she currently serves on the board of directors for the Kraft Heinz Company. I'm so happy to have you, Alicia, on the show as well. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Teresa. I'm very happy to be here.
And last but not least, Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose. Courtney is the president of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the premier network of Black real estate professionals, and one of the oldest trade associations in the country with over 100 chapters. Since 2019, Courtney also has served as CEO of GEC Development, and under her leadership, the company has procured contracts with major institutions in the Texas market where she resides. Courtney also holds a bachelor's degree in economics, a master's in community development, and a doctorate in organizational leadership. And since 2008, she has served as a faculty member and adjunct professor for Prairie View A&M University, where she teaches land development and real estate courses. And so welcome, Courtney, to the show. I'm also excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm excited to be here.
And so two of these powerhouses also are residing in Houston, which is not surprising as to why it is one of the fastest and one of the most diverse cities in the country. So I'm excited and I can't wait. I want to hear your stories, how you got involved in the companies that you're in. And I'm going to start with you, Anita. No, actually, I'm going to start with you, Alicia, because your background is so fascinating. And the fact that you're in the renewables industry, most of the people that I know that are in energy, my husband was a nuclear physicist and engineer. They usually have that type of background when they're in the energy business. So what led you to pursue that career and in this field?
Yes, well, I, as I mentioned, or you mentioned, have a degree in economics. And after college, I came back to Des Moines, the town where I grew up, and went to work for Mid-American Energy Company, one of the companies like yours and mine that are part of Berkshire Hathaway Energy. And it was fascinating to me to work in an industry where you're always needed. So providing an essential service to society, I've always been interested in energy and have spent a lot of time within Berkshire Hathaway Energy. I would say touring the energy space. I started off in trading. I traded natural gas, and then worked on several projects and found my way to the renewable energy space. So it's been a winding tour throughout the energy industry, but renewables is a particularly exciting place to be.
I was going to say it's probably the most innovative places that you can be in today. And so, again, kudos to your role and what you're doing. I'm really honored to know you. And so, anyway, Anita, you are a veteran, amazing, and also a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And how has your military background, your experiences, also influenced your leadership at, running this major organization that's pretty young, but pretty impressive? Also, how's the style that you had, your background helped you with advocacy as well?
Thank you, Teresa. As a veteran and serving 35 years, leadership is ingrained in you. It is instilled to be structured, disciplined, and put integrity first. And so all of that is what I bring to and have been groomed in me for leadership with the Alliance and other leadership opportunities I've had, just to be at the top, one of the top ranks as an enlisted member in E8 when I retired, is still just having those abilities and people recognizing that in you. So this journey that I was able to take continuously straight, not a break, of 35 years has grown me to be where I am today, to have the resume of leadership and what I can bring that's different from others, right? Because we talk about this civilian world, that's what we call it. And then the military thought process is totally different. And so for us, a lot of us struggle once we get out the military because we're so used to the structure to have to try and reel others in to see that this is probably a better way to do it if we can wrap our head around it and just be a little more disciplined. So I'm excited to have served that long, and now to bring that to the Alliance, I think is the right time for me in our 4th year. So we're excited about where we're going and moving forward, and the leadership that I bring is a little different, but I think it's needed, and everybody is kind of learning from what I am bringing to the table in this kind of realm of coming from a military background.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. And I think discipline is the number one goal, that where you reach your goals when you have the discipline. Gino Bafari, our CEO, will tell you that he is the most disciplined individual. He follows a routine, everything he's almost like he didn't come from the military. He didn't serve, but he should have, because he's got that military, discipline in place. So I totally agree with you. And I think the Alliance is just going to be taken to another different level with you leading it. Courtney, how about you? I know that, the organization and you've got a big conference I want to talk about that's coming up at the end of this month. And we've got a lot going on in real estate, the current market conditions. You also have 100 chapters that you are leading. So what are the attributes that you feel are really effective in leadership so that you can lead these organizations and also have success in what you're doing? Because you're serving for 2 years. Your role is a 2-year voluntary role that you're taking.
Yes, I love this question, Teresa. Leadership to me is really about the basics. And being the president of NARAB, as you mentioned, over 100 chapters across the country, different nuances, different markets, different personalities. And, my thought in terms of leadership is just going back to the golden rule. Treat others like you want to be treated. Being accessible, being transparent, integrity. All of those things that we've always learned has been what I have tried to bring to this role, and that we've seen positive results from it. So I would just kind of always lean on those original attributes that we've all learned, and always remember the golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated.
I love that. And your organization, I will tell you, I've been part of NARAB since I've gotten in my role, and it is in the best place it's ever been. I know you've had some great leaders, Ruby, I think the kickoff now you. So again, I'm so excited to be part. And of course, I'm going to be in Charlotte, by the way, at the end of this month, because NARAB has their midwinter conference. And so if you are interested, we'll have the link so that you can, it's not too late to register, is it?
Tomorrow is the last
So
day.
Tomorrow is the last day you can register.
Yes. People can
so
give
you
themselves
definitely
a
want
Valentine's gift.
You definitely want to go. It's a great group, and I can't wait to see you there in person. So
Same here.
one of the things that we get asked a lot is, how did you get in the role that you're in, right? Did
Mhm.
someone tap you on the shoulder? Did you pursue it? And what would you recommend? Because there's a lot of people that watch you and they think, wow, I want to be just like Alicia. I want to be just like Anita and just like Courtney. What do I need to do to be able to follow in your path? And I'm going to start with you, Alicia.
I love this question. And at what any level, I would say exceed expectations. So I certainly moved up over 22 years within Berkshire Hathaway Energy through various individual contributor to leadership roles. And at every stage, I would say I was always looking to do more and to do more. And as you move up, things become more and more attainable seeming. And so, the initial opportunities that I was given were different than, like I mentioned, I had been in trading for 10 years and then was asked to work on a renewable energy project and go buy 22,000 acres of land in California, which has nothing to do with anything I had done before. And I had to be brave enough to take that chance. And then it was, I got used to being challenged and finding the confidence to do different things. And from there, it was just take every opportunity and exceed expectations and see where it leads you.
If you can beat fear, you can beat anything. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I love that you stepped up the plate to do jobs that weren't in your comfort zone, but also that you said, hey, I'm going to do better than what they asked me. I like the exceeding expectations, Alicia. Extremely, extremely, great advice. And how about you, Anita?
Well, Teresa, I was actually tapped on the shoulder. And it was surprising to me. I know I've always been a servant leader. I've always risen to the occasion when I've been asked to lead. But when someone else can see, your work and your worth of what you're doing, I started the first chapter here in Houston. I was the president, local chapter president for the Houston chapter of the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance. And so from there, we were doing very well in what we were doing as one of the leading chapters starting out. And at the tap on the shoulder, it did just surprise me a little bit, but I was saying, okay, if it's for me, if God has brought it to me, He will bring me through it, and that's my belief. And so I accepted that challenge to step up to the national level, and then just kept working hard and being available and showing up. A big part of what we have to do as leaders is always show up and be held accountable. No matter what, we can't make excuses. A lot of excuses. We have to show up and be accountable. And I am a person who does that. And so that was noticed, and I got that opportunity. And I'm here today and grateful and blessed, and realized that the shoulders that I've stood on, and the shoulders that people would stand on mine, based on where we are as women and African American. It's a huge honor to be here, and for me, it's accountability, showing up, and people will recognize it, and that's what's most important. To see your work.
Well, you have so many intersectionalities,
Mhm.
Anita, that you are involved with. But the fact that, and I don't know anyone out there does not realize how hard it is to start a chapter. It is so much work. So,
Really love.
right? We all know because it is getting people there, getting involved, getting the dollars, the sponsorship, all of that stuff, Anita. I'm sure that's why you have made it to the level you're in. And again, thank you so much for all that you're doing. Courtney, how about you?
So I too was tapped
Mhm.
to get on the ladder, as they call it in NARAB. I didn't even know what a ladder was. So when I was tapped to get on the ladder, so oh, this is interesting. What is this? And I so appreciate Anita and Alicia's responses, because I think it comes from service. I think it comes from showing up. I think it comes from following through. I think it comes from exceeding expectations. And when you work hard, and people see your passion about the industry, you're passionate about whatever it is that you're working on, that's when you get selected. That's when you get tapped. That's when you get asked to take your leadership to the next level. So for me, it was definitely something that I prayed about, talked to my husband about, I tell this story at Teresa, I don't know where you were at the installation, but I told the story how literally I said no at first to getting on the ladder for NARAB. And one of my mentors, Andrea Cooksey from Houston, called my husband and said she really needs to consider this. You know, she's not considering it because she knows the amount of work that it is, but she really needs to consider this. So mentors are very important also too. And having your family support is very important. But I think when you do the work, when you show the passion, I think other people see that, and they give you that opportunity to take your leadership to the next level.
Oh, and there's so much work involved in running both of these of your organizations, and
Yes.
Alicia, yours as well. It is unbelievable the amount of travel, the amount of getting in front and initiatives that you want to accomplish to increase homeownership, because that's both of your goals in your communities. So again, a testament to being tapped. You started also just a call out, because weren't you part of the Women Council of Realtors? Is that where you
No,
started, or?
so I was local board president of NARAB for our Houston chapter, and then we have a state chapter. So you know, you just go up the line
The ladder.
and you get tapped, and then there's a whole nother ladder that exists. So it's been fun. It's been an amazing journey. My one commitment to myself was when it stops being fun, that's when I need to stop. So it's been fun all the way through. And that's the plan. That's the goal, to keep on growing, learning, being impactful, but also having good experiences also.
Well, I think that's a awesome recipe. And one of the things that I think is also really insightful is the fact that all of you have been involved through gender dominated roles in the male industry, right? The biases,
Mhm.
because all of the industries you're in, Courtney, you're in commercial real estate. Your
Yes.
focus is commercial. Anita, being a veteran of the Air Force. My uncles are I have family, military, Air Force, all men, okay, that are part of that group. And then Alicia, your group as well. So how have you been able to manage, right, a leader role without the biases that we see in the workplace? And I'll start with you, Anita.
For me, Teresa, my background is diversity, equity, and inclusion in the military, called military equal opportunity, is what I was involved in for 13 years. So from getting promoted through the ranks, I had enough stripes now to actually be able to say something about biases, because that was my role, to investigate things that didn't seem very pleasant. And in the Air Force, the pilots tend to have a little machismo.
Yeah.
And so it's really male dominated. And I had to fight. And once I got into that role, to be able, because they had mugs that were not very accepting of others. It was really a male dominated bar area they had. And I fought for that. Why are they allowed to have that? That's not what we should be representing. And so for me, I have been able to be in a position to be able to speak to it. When I see it, I'm going to call it out, ask somebody, do you think that's okay? Is this right? Am I seeing this correctly? What is your perspective? And if someone is feeling the same thing, then we have to deal with that head on. I also had an experience at a military school for learning my job in equal opportunity. I was sexually harassed.
Mm.
Me and another young lady, and she was so fearful that she was like, I cannot do it. I cannot do it. This male was a high school football coach. I could not live in good spirits. I have my conscience. Let this not be told that he did this to us, to go back and still be able to have that power over all those kids. I just couldn't do it. So I am one, when I see biases or anything, I'm going to speak on it, to bring the truth to light. And, that person needs to be held accountable, because that's the only way we can stop and grow and understand how we have a role to play and make a difference and make that impact. I like what Courtney said, the impact of it all.
I love that you stood up and that you actually fought, and that you were able to speak out and say, hey, let's change this. I know this is a male dominant field, but it doesn't need to be, because there's a lot of opportunity for all of us. Courtney, how about you?
So, Teresa, as you know, NARAB is 77 years old. and I'm the fourth female president in the
I know.
whole 77-year history. So it's definitely a male-dominated organization when it comes to leadership. So this was a difficult role. Also had good preparation. I chaired the Greater Houston Black Chamber, second female to chair that. I chaired the Texas Association of African American Chambers, first female to chair that. So for some reason, God has placed me in these positions in very male-dominated environments. You mentioned commercial real estate and development. It's very male-dominated. What I've learned is consistency, how important it is to be consistent when you show up. And as a female leader, to carry yourself in such a way that demands respect. And when I say respect, I don't mean fear. It's not about fear or anything of that nature, but it's to carry yourself consistently in a manner that demands respect. And that's, things that you have to be conscious of when you go to conferences and when you travel and when you interact. Early on, and I'm a second generation realtor, second generation real estate broker. So I had my dad as a great mentor. And being able to walk into these situations when a lot of times you're not the majority, you get used to it after a while. But what I've learned is just being consistent in who you are and carrying yourself in such a way that lends respect. And then the last thing that I will say for women and female leaders, what I have noticed is that we typically outwork our male counterparts. So when you do the work and you get the job done and you get the task done, that speaks volumes. And being able to do the work and to execute, I think male or female in leadership, that's the most important characteristic.
Such important information and valuable, because it's so true. I love everything that you've said, Courtney, that you have to, you have to show up, you have to be there, you have to demand this respect, and you have to know your stuff. You
Yeah.
really have to understand it. And what a huge testament to you that you've been called to lead all these organizations that have been dominated by men, which is surprising. In real estate, all of you know, it's dominated by women, right? The real
Yeah.
estate actual business is really dominated by women, but to have only 4 in the 77-year history tells a lot about, number one, where you stand, Courtney, and also
Thank
how
you.
we need to still move forward our
Yes.
initiatives there. So again, thank you for sharing. Alicia, I know you also were in that same situation because in the industry, it's predominantly men.
Mhm.
And you have to
It's
be sensitive too in your industry because you're working with a lot of engineers, and I know that mindset.
yes.
That's tough.
Unfortunately, more and more female engineers, which is exciting. But in the beginning of my career, I would say I was unaware of that dynamic because I worked in the financial side of the company, and there was a better balance of men and women than there was later in my career when I went into operations roles. So when I was working in trading and working on the financial side, I didn't see this split. I was separate from all of the frontline employees. And as I got out into projects, so I worked in development and construction of solar farms and wind farms. And all of a sudden you look around and you're on site in a construction trailer at a table with 20 people and you're like, where'd everybody go? And so I started to see that it was those roles that maybe people thought those aren't roles for me because they didn't see any women in those roles. And then as I came back to the utility side and I ran the gas business, there are very few women in the front lines of the gas business, and certainly fewer in the front lines on the electric side. And we have our roles are servicemen and linemen. And so we have evolved and are continuing to do more and more. But When I was vice president of gas delivery at Mid-American, I had the opportunity to be the executive sponsor for our women's employee resource group. We called Energized Women. And it was really important to me because I had seen that. I had seen the difference between the business side and the operations side, and could clearly see the benefit in being out there, being in front, showing that women that these jobs are for us and we can do really great at them and they can lead to fantastic careers. And so I definitely agree with Courtney. And when you sit at that table and you see that I'm the only one here, how you show up is so important. Yeah. And do you fade into the background, or do you have that confidence to be the same person that you are when you're surrounded by faces that look like yours, and having that consistency and knowing when I'm in that situation, I'm going to show up the same. It is something that you have to think about ahead of time and get used to, get comfortable in that situation. And eventually, I would say you don't have to think about it as much. It just is part of who you are. But in the beginning, you do have to think about it.
That is so powerful. And pardon, energize, that whole energy power, but that is so powerful what you're saying, for sure. And I'm going to pivot back to you because you have been such a huge supporter of all the ERGs, right? That are part of Berkshire Hathaway. And we're part of that as well, the energy group. We've got our familia. I know we've got our familia in the house. We've got also Pride. We also have Energize. We have Beauty, all these groups. You're always the first to be there. And so how has that mentorship, sponsorship role played in the leadership journey? And how do you mentor others and cultivate those relationships to help others that can go up the ladder as well? Like you were saying, Courtney, that ladder, I didn't even know that existed. But how are you able to do that? And what do you recommend for others, Alicia?
Yes. Well, number one, lead by example, because people are always watching. And so that's our first opportunity to show people how it's done and how they can be successful as they work their way through their careers. And the second would be, as you said, Teresa, show up. At these ERG meetings, how many places do you go where you get credit for just showing up? So Courtney's talking about her conference she's going to have at the end of the month. I'm pretty certain that it's going to be a lot more than just showing up, right? That is a huge effort that you're putting in. When you come to these ERG meetings and participate in activities with the various ERGs, the feedback that you get is, we're so happy you're here, and just your presence is so comforting to people, and it lets them know that this is important to our organization. And so just being there, show up, be present, be engaged. Those are certainly the two most valuable opportunities for me. I do have a lot of time, or I don't have a lot of time, but I do spend some time, mentoring people individually as well, because some people will reach out. So I do try to be there in whatever way that I can, because I see the importance of helping other people build confidence and find their way through in their careers. So it certainly is important to me to do that for others.
Well, you're such a great role model. And I will tell you, when you sit in the ERGs, the meetings that we have, there are so many times we cry. Like I cry because it's such a touching experience to see others like you and leaders support you when we are in that group. So again, thank you for all that you do. Courtney, how about you?
So mentorship, I have a lot of thoughts on it, and I really appreciate Alicia's talking about leading by example, and I think that's where it really starts at. So I have several situations now, and my life has changed a lot in recent years in terms of responsibility. So a lot of people ask, "Oh, will you mentor me? Will you mentor me?" And I just don't have the bandwidth at this point anymore to take on relationships like that. But I think that you can get mentored through service. I always give this example. There's a broker here in Houston. His name is Gerald Womack, and he's one of my mentors. And he is a phenomenal broker, runs a tremendous business. And I always wanted to be mentored by him. So we were working in a local association here with NARAB. and we were planning a housing expo. And on the board, I was the chair of the expo serving. And the board meeting, he said, well, I can get us to the mayor. We need to go talk to the mayor and tell the mayor what we're doing. Great. So I follow up with him. He says, come to my office. And then I set an appointment with the mayor. Come to my office. I'll drive. We'll go over to meet the mayor. Show up at his office. I get there a few minutes early. His assistant brings me up to his office. So I'm sitting in his office. I see how his operations running. I see his agents coming in and out. We get in the car. We go see the mayor. The mayor's running 30 minutes late. So guess what? We're sitting there. So we're sitting there now for 30 minutes talking, interacting, et cetera, et cetera. We go in, we see the mayor. We have a great meeting. We're excited. He says, are you hungry? Have you had lunch? No, I haven't had lunch. Let's go eat lunch. We go to lunch. We talk more about business, blah, 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 blah. Brings me back to his office. I've just spent 4 hours with someone that I wanted to be mentored with because we were serving, working on something. If I would have called him and asked him, would you spend 4 hours with me? Would you take me into your office? Will you drive me in your car? Will you take me to lunch? It would have never happened. But because we were working on something, serving on something that we were both passionate about, I end up having a day with my mentor. So I would tell people who want to get mentored, be a part of something, join, get on the board, serve, volunteer, sign up, show up. That's how you get good mentor relationships. And you can't force that relationship to happen. Sometimes if you're there, you're ready to serve, it can organically happen for you.
It is such wisdom, right? That is so true. In almost any case, because all of you are so busy and sometimes you just don't, I love it, the bandwidth.
Yes.
I think Sheryl Sandberg in the book Lean In talked about that's how she got her breaks. It wasn't,
Yes.
when she saw mentors, she followed them, served, and then got opportunities
Yes.
like those 4 hours with them. I mean, I think that is just a great story. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that,
Thank
because
you.
that is definitely the way that you actually get people to notice you,
Yes.
because that mayor noticed you and noticed how
Yes.
committed you were. And that just took you to another level.
Yeah.
I love that. Anita, how about you?
So for me, I love what both you ladies have said, showing up and getting close to who you want to be mentored by. Service, that is the key word. If you have that servant's heart, you're going to serve, it will line up for you because it's kind of what you want to manifest, right? I'm manifesting, I want to be mentored by this person. In some kind of way, the universe brings that together. So I definitely believe in that. Now, also, I want to state you cannot be a mentor if you're not a good mentee. If you have to be, just like you can't be a good leader if you can't follow. That's my belief, right? And so that's really where it boils down to. So for me, I have to be able to be mentor myself to be a mentee, so I can learn and grow, and then I can mentor someone else. And that has been something I've been able to do, right? I definitely agree with what Courtney has stated, that I got into the mix. I wanted to be around certain things, and so I show up. I come to events. I meet people. I'm not afraid to talk. You got to kind of put yourself out there, right? And so that's definitely how I've been able to do things. A lot of people who know me said, if you want something done or you want a question asked, just send Anita Blue. She's going to ask, she's going to figure it out. Who do I need to talk to? And that's a part of growth for me. Believe it or not, I was an introvert. I was very shy. I would almost be ill to try and speak in front of people. But through continuing to serve, continue to show up and watch people and have mentorship, I have grown to where I am today. And I definitely want to be that person. Someone to say, I want you to mentor me. Right. That's an honor for someone to ask for you to do that. They see something in you that they want to emulate, see some kind of value, and that's so important. And so that's what I would definitely say about mentorship and showing up. I do try to get to every event. I'm with EXP Realty now, and I showed up to their Pride event. They have all their networks as well. So that's my goal, to always try and get on the list and, be active and be seen and just, be a part of things. So it's very important to me.
Well, and I noticed that's part of even your mission statement. Like, I went on in your bio about servant attitude, and I think that definitely helps in your area. But I love the fact that you said also you have to be a mentee before you're mentored. You have to understand, learn, listen to others so that you can actually be, mentor others as well. So you talked about assertiveness. You talked about how that's part of, people will come to you for that reason. So how are you able to lead with empathy, but also have that approach of being able to get difficult situations or conflicts, handled. Because that is always tough for me. That is the toughest. I'm gonna be honest. I have a hard time dealing with conflict situations. I avoid that, and I'd love to learn more. So, Anita, back to you on that one.
Absolutely. It is a challenge and very hard as a leader to deal with conflict, because that's not something we want to have in the forefront. We're trying to do positive things, trying to grow people. And then in any incident or any issues that pop up, we have to handle. And I face it. This is what I try to do. Definitely want to be empathetic and hear what's going on. But if there's rules and regulations and bylaws that we have to follow, that's where we have to go by that. Because when we don't, that's when things kind of fester and lead on and can carry over. And if we don't try and handle them as fast as we can when we first notice it. Because I know we want to be empathetic. We want to say, well, give them a chance, give us grace. But how many times do you do that before it's going to affect your organization? You have to be able to stand strong in what's right. So for me, integrity and what's right and holding people accountable in that moment is what's going to help the organization. It's not about me. It's not about the person being unsympathetic. I'm having empathy, but we have to do what's right because other people are watching. And so that's how I tend to lead in those areas. I have empathy. I'm a servant. How can we help? But if the person has to help themselves to help, help me.
That is so spot on. So spot on. Amen.
Yes.
I have to ask you, Courtney, because we know, I don't know about NARAP, but I'm going to tell you, other organizations that I've been involved with, there's always drama. Always drama. And so
whenever you put people together, there's drama.
Conflict and gossip. And I'm like, come on. Yeah. How do you do that? How do you lead with 100 chapters, the drama, and get that conflict resolutions done?
Yes, I love Anita's response because I take the same approach. Just follow the rules, so it's not personality driven. It's not, city or side of the country driven. It's just follow the rules. The rules are there for a reason. And if we can just follow those rules, then it takes the personality out of it. The hardest part about being a leader, now, you all have probably heard this before, you're paid based upon the level of problems that you can solve. And it's really managing people, managing personalities, keeping the train on the track, keeping it moving forward. But following the rules and being consistent with that is, from my perspective, one of the best strategies when you're dealing with a lot of people, a lot of personalities, and a lot of background and a lot of history. If you follow the rules, you can be mad at the leader, but when you really go back and you assess, if you followed the rules and it wasn't a lot of extra exceptions and variables, it's easier to respect that leader. You may not like it, but the respect for that leader should definitely be there.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I like that. Wait, you said you're paid on the number of
on the level of problems that you can
solve.
Solve. It's based upon solving problems.
It is so true. I like that. That's a quote I'm going to put on there because, I think a lot of times too, what I've found is a lot of people are not stepping up. They take on the role and they don't step up to the plate and do what they're supposed to do. So if we could do that, a lot of the problems are solved. How about you, Alicia? You are also in a situation where you're having to handle with empathy and also tread lightly. How do you handle those?
Well, I definitely agree with Anita and Courtney and you guys have covered the conflict side and the difficult situations and the problem solving, and absolutely agree. Integrity number one and holding people accountable. For me, between assertive and empathy, I definitely am trending towards the assertive side. And we do a thing called Clifton Strengths at BHE. And my top 5 are strategic, relator, achiever, self-assurance, and command. And so assertiveness is that's what and I'm a Leo. So assertiveness is my
it's in your blood.
And I'm a Taurus.
You can't help yourself.
That's right. That's right. That's where I'm headed. And It's very effective, but also I need to be a leader that people want to follow. And so I recognize empathy is number 27 for me. And I know that. And I have great people around me who help balance that and help hold me accountable. If there's a time when more empathy is needed, then I will naturally give a situation. And so I have to be aware, self-aware that empathy is not going to be my go-to. My go-to is going to be let's go, let's go, let's go. But ultimately, if I'm real assertive and know the exact right thing to do, but can't get anybody to follow me, this is not going to be a successful organization. And so it's knowing my strengths and knowing what my strengths are not, and making sure that I've got plans for myself and I'm compensating for that myself, and I have a great team around me and people who excel at empathy and people who can help me to balance that and kind of fill that blind spot for me.
I think that is such, great way to operate, right? Because we have to operate on our strengths. And if empathy is not, having that balance is what makes a great organization. And one of the things that we are all under attack, I mean, DEI, I'm diversity, equity, inclusion, we're in the role that really, those are kind of the things that we really champion because we know that it makes for a better organization, more profitable, all of these things, right? So how do we balance? Because we're getting a little bit of pushback, right? I know the Alliance for sure gets a lot of pushback, a lot of negativity. How do you work all those, situations, and what strategies are you able to use that are going to be effective in overcoming those obstacles so that we can advance in all of what we're trying to do? And Anita, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. This is a deep question for our community and my community, as there, 400, 500, 600, 700 bills that are out there that are against, certain levels of who we are. The transgender community is being attacked, no holds barred, with everything to hold that group of people back. In housing, it really is very obvious sometimes that people don't want to house our community. They don't want to rent. They don't want you to purchase a house. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, a lot of that comes through realtors. The biases that we can feel or don't call back, or just sometimes we experience that. And so right now, what we're trying to do is be available to those who need us. It's a big migration that we talk about in a couple of states. Texas is one, and Florida, where, due to the harshness of the laws that there has been implemented and they're trying to implement, people are fleeing these states. And we're trying to find states where they can go and feel safe and secure. And I can bring my transgender son or daughter to have care and be, considered a human being when it all stops. We're all human beings. And who has the right to tell you who you need to be and how you need to do that? There's only one who we will stand in judgment in front of. And it's one of the 10 that's kind of tricky for me. It's one of the 10, thou shalt not judge. But it is a constant thing that we as people do, especially upon this community. And so I would say we are advocating for our fairness, a couple of strategies. And we do have the HR 4439 bill for fair and equal housing that's coming up for our community to add to add those qualities that we're missing: gender identity and sexual orientation. It's not an included or protected class. 30 states right now do not protect the LGBTQ plus community when it comes to housing. You have the right to discriminate openly with no type of repercussions. So that is the fight that we face in our community, and we are here for it as the Alliance. And we will be having our legislative meetings in May and heading to the Hill to voice our concerns. And so it's a lot, and it is hitting us pretty hard, but we are here to fight those who can. And that's what I say. Some people cannot fight or don't feel they can do it, but I am. I'm a fighter, and I'll do that.
I love that. Air Force, military, you fight, you go there and fight for us. I know that Gino is one of the first to sign and to speak on the Stop Hate in Real Estate and sign the pledge. So I think that speaks volumes about his commitment to fair housing and equity for all. I think that's so important. Courtney, anyone, Alicia, do you want to pipe in on that one? Chime in.
Yes, I certainly will. You mentioned something, Teresa, in your comments opening up this question, that diverse companies are more profitable. It's a fact. One of the things that I like to do when approaching diversity is use data. Data. One of the reports that NARAB produces is the State of Housing in Black America. What that report shows is the data that discrimination did happen. Redlining did affect the Black community. This is not a myth. It's not, something that was made up. It's facts. It's data. So being able to utilize data has been a tool and is a tool, I think, in the DEI space of why diversity programs are needed, why diversity and inclusion and equity is still a factor, because it hasn't happened yet in every company, in every arena, in every industry. So I believe in utilizing data when it comes to making the point. And then two, I would say there's also the business case. And some people, when you go into corporations and things of that nature, you got to bring a business case to it. But the business case is diversity brings more profit. Diversity brings a better outlook on how do you solve problems. It's a true fact. And bringing that data and those facts, I think, is how we overcome the attack that is currently on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
And you are seeing it in so many different layers. If you just take a look at the Super Bowl, actual Super Bowl are viewed by more minorities in each group than not. So I think and if you look at, the number one selling chips right now have spice and hot, which came up of the diverse ideas of the people that worked in this space, right? That they were there on the line saying, hey, it'd be nice to have hot Tostita, because we always throw hot spice on stuff. And their number one selling chip right now in the world is the spicy, hot, brands. Alicia, how about you? Thank you, Courtney, for your message.
Well, certainly thank you to Anita for the great work that you're doing to combat bad policy that affects certainly our employees and everyone else's as well. And so I really think of an attack on DEI as being an attack on our employees. It is an attack on individuals, and it's a time to really double down on our efforts on that, showing up for the employee resource groups and supporting employees, and make DEI, it just has to be a part of who we are and how we operate. And so we're not necessarily just DEI. Those three words together can create some emotion, but you can't argue that our teams that are diverse are really powerful, and the data speaks for itself, and the engagement and the level. Are people happy to be at work? Are they productive? Are they safe? And so we strive for a more and more diverse workforce, and we make sure that here what we're talking about is respect, and who's going to argue with respect and kindness and inclusion and, yes, empathy. So who can argue with these things? And so I think I really see, as a leader, our actions speak the loudest. My grandma always said actions speak louder than words. And so we demonstrate through our diversity and through the way we operate together what's possible. And again, try to lead by example within our organization.
And it creates a happy place, a place where everyone feels like they belong, no matter where. I mean, that is the number one thing that I know that you've created, Alicia, in your company, because you hear it every single time that you're on any of our BHE calls on how people love working for you. So the leader. So, legacy, y'all are the legacy builders, right? And so tell me what you hope to leave as a woman of influence, and leaders. I love this question. And what would you offer the next, advice would you give the next generation of leaders? And we're almost running out of time. So just quick, and then we'll have our wrap up questions. So I'll start with you, Courtney.
Wow, this is a deep question. I would say be a leader that people want to follow. I think Alicia said this earlier. And I think when it comes to leadership, if you can be a leader that people want to follow, you have accomplished the goal. You've accomplished the task. So that's my philosophy. That's my words of advice is be a leader that others want to follow.
And beautiful. And Anita, that's your thing. I love that too. Any other comments for you?
Absolutely. 35 years in the Air Force, we have 3 core values: integrity first, service before self, excellence in all you do. Excellence in all you do. Those are what's ingrained in me. And I also have this last one: lead by faith.
I think those are beautiful, beautiful. And I love the core 3 that you're able to bring with you because you built that inside you. And once it's like a habit, the atomic habits. You do it, then you follow it, you're going to be successful. Alicia, how about you?
Gosh, these are all great things so far. I would say really use your strengths to make others better. So you have to figure out what your strengths are and have confidence in using your strengths. That gets you comfortable in taking challenges, which leads to more and more opportunities in leadership. And at some point it's not about you, it's about others. It's about that servant leadership and how do I make others better? How do I make this a great place to work where we're going to do great things? So I would add in that piece about really focus on how to make others better and as a result really make us all successful.
And that is the winding theme of all of you. Did you notice that all of you who are leaders said that same thing? I just think that's very, very, a lot of wisdom there. So as we wrap up, I like to always recommend for people, any great reads. I'm not a big reader. I want to be honest with you. People know that. And my audience knows I don't love to read. I get more out of podcasts, audible books, also movies or documentaries. But your favorite read podcast, and then end it with a quote. We always want to end with a favorite quote that resonates with you and what that means to you. And so, Anita, I'm going to start with you.
So in getting ready for retirement and calling myself legacy, it just came to me one day. I just put legacy in your name. That's what you're trying to build. You want to leave that behind. And for me, I was able to do 2 books. So the first one is called Breakthrough Success. Talks about my journey in the military and being a lesbian and how did I come out in that journey, going through the Don't Ask, Don't Tell era. And also I did a collaborative book, both collaborative. The second one is Our Shades of Black History. As we know, some the history is being erased. Books are being taken out of school. I work with some other people. I do a podcast as well, Teresa, in the morning on Clubhouse. And we talk about that, right? And so we decided to write a book together. And so that's called Our Shades of Black History. It is out now. And both of those are on Amazon. My quote is, leave that legacy. Your life is your legacy. How do you want that to be? How do you want people to see that? How does that look when you're gone?
Beautiful. And I'm definitely going to follow you and also your book so I can read about it. I love the fact that you do I'm not a Clubhouse person. So you and I are going to have a conversation after that because one of my good friends, Desiree Patno, who's with NAWRB, also does a lot of Clubhouse. And I just still haven't joined that bandwagon. So I want to do that. Courtney, how about you?
Yes. So one book that I'm reading, I've given it to my 14, also 2 with NARAB. It's called Grit by Angela Duckworth. And this is powerful. It's about just getting it done through any circumstance. So I just recommend it. I have truly been enjoying it. And my quote is from Martin Luther King. The time is always right. to do what's right. I
Oh,
love that quote. It's just
one of my
the time
favorites
is always
too.
right to do what's right.
And I've read Grit is great. Though, so
Yes.
thank you. That's a great, great book. Because we actually, when I send out our women who lead, y'all all have grit. So I think that's perfect, Courtney, that you and we'll write all these books down too, so people can actually order them if they want to do
Awesome.
so. All right. End it with you, Alicia.
Well, we should have compared notes because my quote is also the Martin Luther King quote.
Good.
But
That's
It's a
good.
great
That's
one.
good. I love
It's a
it. I
great
it's
love
a
one.
it.
great one.
You can
That's a
always,
good one.
replicate that same one. But go
Yes.
ahead.
So you mentioned it's an oldie but a goodie, but Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, I think is great for women to really figure out how to show up and how to have a voice. Another one is A Higher Standard by General Ann Dunwoody. And so she was the first 4-star female general and has some really interesting stories about what that was like and coming up through the ranks and getting comfortable in that role. So those are two books that I like that are
I
applicable.
love that. I've not read the second one, so I can't. Lean In is one of my favorite, just because it's from a women's perspective, and she's so honest about
Yes.
how she dealt with her role. But definitely one that I will definitely have to follow. Is it on Audible? I'm just like,
Sure it is.
I like Audible
I'm
too.
sure it is too. Yeah.
Anyway, well, I want to thank
Enjoy
you
it.
but all so much. I love your quotes, and I also love that each of you really were authentic and inspire me. I want you to know how much you all inspire me. I'm so proud that you were able to be on the show because I know you're all very busy. So I found this quote, which I really feel describes what you already have said and the impact that you have on others. Legacy is not about leaving something for people. It's about leaving something in people.
Wow.
Isn't that, I love that, and
Wow.
that's by Peter Struple. And I thought, this is so, so spot on as to what you all are doing. You're leaving something in people that resonates, that inspires, and that wants them to become better at what they do. So thanks again for sharing your wisdom, your insights, and being authentic leaders. You have truly inspired all of us. And it's been a privilege to have you share un cafecito with you today and also our audience. And I hope you're going to join me, all of you, on February 28th. That's our next show. It's Diversity Matters. And we've got special guests that will be on that show on the 28th. Back here, it's on our Facebook page as well. And then on March 13th, join us again when we zoom in on another great team of leaders. A reminder, you can join our YouTube channel, download our podcast. This actually becomes a podcast for those like me that don't like to, that don't have the time, that are in their cars selling real estate. Download the podcast. You'll be able to hear this and also share our episodes. And as I close, remember the time is now, and lead with courage, lead with passion, and also lead with your authentic you. Thanks again for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.